you're not a seasonal grocery shopper, let me tell you what you're missing out on. First is the ability to purchase ingredients that may typically be out of your budget and will be at a lower price point than at any other time of the year. Second is the ability to get the highest nutritional value and best taste from foods that are in season because they've traveled less miles to get to you. Third, it's the most affordable way to stock your pantry and liven up your rotation of base meals with minor tweaks that give your weekday meals a whole new flavor. I've been on a mission to prove that to you every month in these pantry chats, and this is episode number 18, so don't argue with me, especially because I give you a free printable grocery guide that lists the in-season fruits, vegetables, and other household items that will help you keep your grocery budget in check. I also give you 4 free recipe cards that are based on the meals that I'm about to show you that you can print and tuck in your recipe box or binder. So I'm gonna read this list to you, and then I'm gonna show you the over 6 recipes that you can make this month. Let's get started. The fruits that you're going to want to prioritize this month include
apricots, blackberries, blueberries, cherries, figs, grapes, melons, nectarines, peaches, plums, raspberries, and strawberries.
And the vegetables that you're going to want to prioritize this month include
arugula, beets, bell peppers, carrots, corn, cucumbers, eggplant, green beans, okra, peas, radishes, summer squash, zucchini, and tomatoes.
I know, you've got a lot of options this month. I'm also going to talk to you about where I've been, and the short answer is that this month has just been packed with familiar faces that you all know. My entire family came up and we traveled to an unexpected place. I spent time with Monica, and I've been busy harvesting wild herbs for fall and winter medicines. Plus at work, it was the end of the school year, which is always a very busy time for me. Sorry about that, but I'm here. Summer peaches aren't just delicious as a breakfast topping or a peach cobbler. So here's a recipe where they'll shine at your dinner table too.
Start by adding some bacon grease or the oil of your choice to a pan over low heat. Then take your ripe summer peaches, clean them off, and slice them to a thickness that you prefer. Gather your slices into a bowl and then set them aside. We're going to use these in just a bit. Next, measure out your balsamic vinegar, and then you'll add a tablespoon or so of brown sugar to balance out the acidity. Then you'll want to take fresh herbs from your garden. I'm using oregano, but rosemary and thyme are also very delicious. Give your herbs a rough chop and then add them to your balsamic glaze. Now I've got some thinly sliced pork chops, but you can absolutely use a thicker cut. You'll just want to lightly season with a bit of pepper and salt on both sides. Add your seasoned pork chops to the warm pan and cook the first side. Flip them, then pour your balsamic glaze on top, followed by your sliced peaches. Then immediately transfer your peaches into the oven to bake on medium heat for just 10 to 15 minutes or enough for the peaches to soften. What comes out is this bronzed goodness, but we're not done yet. We're going to take some feta cheese, chop it into fork-sized bites, and sprinkle it on top. Add a few sprigs of basil and your one-pan dinner is done. It might just be me, but I'd say that this meal plates up like a fancy restaurant. But truly, you can see how easily it comes together with your own fresh herbs from your garden and seasonal fruit. Now, in the fall, I'll swap the peaches for pears. This dish combines savory and sweet with pungent herbal notes and mild tang. I mean, think about it. You've got the texture from the pork, the tenderness from the peaches, and chew from the feta. Y'all, it just works. Now, the secret is to make sure that you've got a taste of everything on your fork before it hits your mouth. Oh, it is a flavor explosion. This recipe is in this month's grocery guide.
Now next up, I've got a no recipe that helps you to take full advantage of the hodgepodge that you may be bringing in from your garden. Matter of fact, I don't know what you wouldn't put in a summertime garden lasagna. And that's why I keep this lasagna variation in rotation June through, well, at least August. And you're gonna wanna do the same. Check it out.
This lasagna recipe doesn't have any rules other than use what you need to harvest from your garden. Now, I've pulled a few carrots that I started from seed because this year we had a fall spring that barely lasted 5 weeks after the last frost, and now we're having summer temps. So they didn't get as large as what I wanted, but I still have the fall. I also harvested some spicy chili peppers. And this is the boxwood basil that I am just loving. They are compact heads of basil that have potent flavor. Oh, delish. My spring onions also needed a haircut, so I'm using some of that. And all of those ingredients are just added to the pan with the ground beef and pasta sauce. The potency of fresh herbs is just incredible. And when I see that at the grocery store they are charging $3 a pack for what I would call a modest handful out of my garden, you realize that growing cut and come again culinary herbs really is saving you money. Whew, y'all, this sauce was just so fragrant and it filled the entire house, which I absolutely love. And oh, let's not forget the garlic, which I never measure because I just love garlic. Now, I like to add an egg to my ricotta cheese layer because not only will it make it creamier, but it helps to bind it together so that it doesn't become too runny. Now, I'm taking some block mozzarella cheese and giving it a rough chop into cubes. This was cheese that I actually had tucked in the freezer. Block cheese freezes so well. And finally, I'm taking some in-season zucchini, which are going to be used instead of lasagna noodles. Trust me, it works because remember, you've got a delicious herb-infused sauce, so as long as you slice the zucchini into moderately thin slices, they needn't be razor thin, you'll be just fine. So I'm actually going to freeze this recipe in individual sized baking dishes to have on hand for a quick meal next week, but you'll assemble your garden lasagna as normal, starting with a layer of zucchini noodles, followed by your ricotta cheese filling, and then your sauce and the cheese you're using, and so on. We made it to the final layer, and this is where I only had about a handful of already shredded cheese that I needed to go ahead and use, so I sprinkled that on top, and then I added this to the oven to bake. But first, y'all, would you look at these beautiful layers of meat and vegetables? And what comes out will be the best homemade lasagna. I mean, look at that cheesy vegetable stuffed goodness. Now, admittedly, I have a problem waiting for things to cool. So forgive that this is sliding off of the spatula, but paired with carrot fronds, this meal represents that nothing in my or your garden needs to go to waste. This recipe is also in this month's grocery guide. If this is our first time meeting, hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog becomingafarmgirl.com. I'm here to help you start cooking from scratch and build a preservation pantry your family will love. If you haven't already, click on the link below to get this month's grocery guide delivered straight to your inbox. Have you tried blueberry barbecue sauce? It's not as crazy as it sounds, and you probably already have the pantry staples that you need to make this sauce. Blueberry barbecue sauce goes with any meat. It's great as a sandwich spread. You can can it. Here's the recipe. Making a simple barbecue sauce starts with dicing an onion, and then you're going to add a bit of Dijon mustard and apple cider vinegar to a pan. Then you'll season it with salt and squeeze in just a bit of lemon. Next, you'll add chicken broth. This is home can, and you'll sweeten it with just a little bit of honey or brown sugar or the sweetener of your choice, and add a few tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, as this simmers, it will thicken and reduce. Now it's time to add your ripe blueberries to your sauce, and so you're going to add them kind of like in sections and give them a quick stir. Next, you will remove the pan from the heat because you're going to need to use an immersion blender to incorporate the berries into the sauce. You want to make sure that your sauce is cooled a bit. I really love watching how the sauce turns from a bright red to a deep purple. Now, this is going to need to simmer for about 30 minutes on low, and you can already see the thickness of the sauce coming together. So now you're going to take your chicken. I'm using leg quarters, and you will just season them with a bit of salt and pepper once they're assembled in some greased cast iron. And then after you have those good and seasoned, you're going to pour your blueberry sauce on top and then pop your pan in the oven to bake. What comes out is a sweet crusty glaze that has the familiar barbecue taste you know, with a sweet brown nutty flavor that makes an easy weekday meal anything but boring. Paired with some noodles, you will be all too eager to generously spread extra sauce around your plate. Sprinkled with fresh green onions from the garden, this summer dish is one that stays in rotation.
I just love strawberry season, don't you? And I've got a healthy homemade strawberry shortcake recipe that you can whip up in no time.
Would you look at these gorgeous strawberries? After giving them a good rinse, you'll want to remove the green leafy top and the small core beneath the cap. Both of these should be saved to make strawberry vinegar for dressing, so don't throw them away. Now you can use something called a strawberry huller to remove the core, but I don't have one and I'm using what I already have on hand, which is a grapefruit spoon to remove the core, which looks like this. If you're going to use the spoon method, you just cut in a circular motion around the stem cap until the core releases. Now once you've got that job done, you'll slice your strawberries. Then add them to a bowl and sprinkle with sugar. Use your hands to combine and pop your plate into the fridge. Now, before I had started this recipe, I popped a log of goat cheese into the freezer for just about 15 minutes to make it easier to cube. And then after I had diced it, I placed it in the fridge to keep cold just for the few minutes that I need to set it aside so that I can scoop some whole wheat flour along with brown sugar, baking powder, and just a pinch of pepper and salt together in a bowl. Then you'll add cold cube butter and your cut goat cheese until things start to get crumbly. Slowly pour in heavy cream just a bit at a time until your dough becomes moist but not overly wet. Next, flour your counter and scoop your dough out of the bowl and start to knead. Next, use a biscuit cutter to shape your biscuits. My grandma perfectly shaped all of her biscuits by hand, but the littlest biscuits she would make with the scraps of dough were always my favorite. Take your biscuits and use wax paper to place them on because they'll need to chill for a bit, at least 15 minutes and up to overnight. So, while the biscuits are cooling in the fridge, let's make our whipped topping, which is vastly better in taste and quality than anything you'll ever buy in a store. You just need a bit of heavy whipping cream and a spoonful or two of powdered sugar that you'll combine in a stand mixer for several minutes. As additional air is incorporated, you'll notice it thickening up on you and you'll get these beautiful whipped peaks. I'm going to scoop some to save for my morning coffee in this jar. Now, I just really love that homemade whipped topping lets the dairy taste shine through, and it's way less sugary tasting without the hydrogenated oils that the frozen brands use. All right, let's pop these biscuits on a baking sheet and place them in a warm oven for a couple of minutes. And this batch makes about 12 biscuits. I can show you better than I could tell you, but what comes out is truly homemade goodness. These biscuits are soft, there's the crusty edges, they're fluffy yet dense, and oh, so good. Strawberry shortcake pairs perfectly with tea time, so let's plate this up using my favorite tea set. Real homemade ingredients make this a dessert I can feel good about. Strawberry shortcake is the perfect summer treat. Now let's have tea.
So some of y'all are like me. You are a person that wants to have a homestead one day, but realistically, you know that it is going to take you at least a few years to get there. So one of the ways that I've appreciated knowing that I have time to build up my know-how is to center the recipes that I am making now based off of the foods that I anticipate that will be growing or raising. So that's the reason why I mainly stick with purchasing whole chickens, because that is how my meat is going to arrive, well, you know, close enough to it, on my farm one day. And y'all see all the other little things I do. Well, one of my goals for this summer was to increase my options for when I have a glut of milk. So I started making my own milk kefir, and I already have my continuous brew of buttermilk. I make my own fermented sour cream, that kind of thing. But I had all of these blueberries on hand. So I went ahead and made my own blueberry panacotta. Oh, it is quick and delicious. Check it out.
First, you'll need to grab a small bowl and you're going to sprinkle your unflavored gelatin over whole milk and let that stand for about 2 minutes or so. Then, in a saucepan over medium heat, you'll stir together your cream and sugar. So let the sugar and milk come to a boil. You'll start to see lots of little bubbles, but remember to stir frequently so you avoid any burning. Next, transfer the gelatin mixture to a larger bowl and then add the warm cream, stirring constantly until everything dissolves. And your consistency after you stir for a bit will end up looking something like this. Then add some vanilla extract. This is a homemade brew, and stir in your blueberries. I'm using my silicone baking molds as ramekins, but you'll divide the mix evenly across your molds. Again, I love this recipe because if you have a glut of milk that you don't want to go to waste, these are a delicious summer treat, or really any time for that matter. Now, once poured, you'll refrigerate for at least 5 hours and up to overnight. If you're using silicone like I am, you'll need to run a knife around the inside of each mold, and then you'll just go ahead and place it on a dessert plate. garnish with a few more blueberries and serve this dessert right away. It's cold and creamy like a rich, thick yogurt ice cream, and the chunks of blueberries in every bite add sweetness to each mouthful. Feel free to use whatever summer fruit you have on hand. Your family will love these, and they are excellent for serving company.
Y'all, this month has been busy, and I know you have probably been wondering, where have I been? So, let me explain. So a few months ago, my mom announced to the family that she has always wanted to see a show on Broadway, and she was determined to cross that off her list before she turned 70 later on this summer. I think she roped my brother and I in by saying that she wanted to see The Lion King, which was a movie that we had on, yikes, VHS. And I don't know how many times my brother would watch that movie. Goodness, time flies because The Lion King came out 30 years ago. But if we saw the show, it would be my first time in New York, so I figured, why not? So we made plans for that trip, and my family came into town a couple of weeks ago. But let me tell you, my French bulldog Thor is always my shadow, but not when Grandpa's in town.
I know you're relaxing, Thor, but Grandpa's here. Grandpa's here, Booba. Come on. Yeah. Who is that, Thor? Is that Grandpa? Is that Grandpa? Is that Grandpa? Is that Grandpa?
I'm telling you, have you ever seen two old men more happy to see each other? Thor is always at my side, but not when Grandpa's around. Now, Thor has manners, so he greeted Nana too, but he came running back to Grandpa.
Well, howdy, y'all. Well, did you miss me?
Hold on, so actually everybody came in town on Mother's Day weekend. And let me tell you, I know that that's the weekend where everybody's taking their mama out to eat, but my mom wants to intentionally avoid restaurants that weekend. And I get it because restaurants are then more crowded than usual, which impacts your service. And in general, we're just a family that is more inclined to have an experience together rather than physical stuff. So my brother and I put our heads together and I said, Rob, we should treat mom to a bed and breakfast. I was like, think about it. It won't be crowded at a bed and breakfast venue. She'll have a chef prepared meal. It would actually be relaxing. And there's a really nice one that's tucked on the main street in Chestertown. And Chestertown is where my mom grew up. And it's been several years since my Nana passed and we just don't make it down there like we used to. And so there was a part of me that thought going back with a new experience could help to reframe things. Now the linchpin was that I would be going to the bread and breakfast with mom, so it would kind of be like a girl's trip. I had to yank his arm a little bit, but I was like, Rob, there's nothing on Amazon that mom needs or one more knickknack. I think I'm onto something. Well, I convinced him. So as soon as they arrived, we took mom's luggage, put it in the truck, and she and I were headed to Chestertown.
It's a scenic drive to the Eastern Shore, away from the highways and beltways of Central Maryland. Crossing the Chester River Bridge always means we're back in the small town of Chestertown. Mom and I stayed at the White Swan Tavern, an impeccably restored colonial-style tavern that dates back to the pre-Revolutionary War, originally as a tannery. Between 1803 and 1853, the property was operated as a tavern by various owners and innkeepers. Our room was the T.W. Liaison Suite. The entry to the suite had a front bedroom, which is where I stayed. Oh, look at all of this Victorian charm. The staircase from this bedroom led to a formal sitting room, which was beautifully decorated with both original and replica pieces reminiscent of 1793, and windows that poured in rich natural sunlight. I enjoy taking time to just sit and read in this gorgeous space. A pocket door leads you down the hall to a bathroom on your right. And further down the hall was the main bedroom where Mom stayed. My goodness, isn't this room breathtaking? Just look at that carved walnut king-size bed that Mom had all to herself. Yes, this room was truly fit for a queen.
delicious. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my goodness, yes.
The restoration of the White Swan Tavern began in 1978 with an archaeological dig. In March of 1981, after 3 years and 5 months of preparation, the White Swan Tavern opened its doors to the public again, ensuring that the White Swan Tavern will last another 290 years. Historic buildings like this are national treasures, and I encourage you to support your state's preservation sites by patroning them as you are able for future generations to enjoy. We enjoyed a farm-fresh hot breakfast and excellent hospitality from the innkeepers.
Used to be Paul's shoe store.
Paul's shoe store?
Yes.
Okay. So Mom is zooming in on the old movie theater?
Yes.
Okay. Mom is telling me that this used to be called Lawyer's Row.
Yes. Mrs. Pitts. She didn't have any children, and she had a lot of fine glasses and dishes.
Okay.
It was like walking on pins and needles. We knew to be very, very careful when we went to her house.
Oh,
As a
okay.
child, I remember that.
Live.
But right here where that building was,
Huh.
it was apartment houses.
Okay.
I mean, it was an apartment given the house.
Yep, there's a fountain there, and Mom was saying that this fountain has been here since she's been a kid, but not the same color, right, Mom?
Right.
Yeah, not the same color, but it's been there.
I'm so glad that we took this trip because my mom shared stories that I had only partially pieced together or had just never heard before. And that really struck me because I'm very close to my parents and I talk to my mom every day. In the morning and in the evening. She still sends me care packages and writes letters and visits frequently. I mean, you think you know someone, right? But in the past, visiting Chestertown was always centered around my grandparents and some other family that we have in the area. And we've driven through but never really visited the downtown shop parts. So in my mind, I have associated with what I now know was the second house that my mom grew up in, and then later on after Pop-Up passed, the retirement community that Nana was in. And I think that's the thing. I think that physically being back in that spot flooded her with memories that just bubbled up. And I got my own walking tour of Chestertown through my mom's eyes. The tiny downtown has been well maintained, but it has gone through extensive renovations. And you know, I'm not sure that that conversation would have ever taken place if we hadn't have had that trip. And so I encourage you, while you have your loved ones, to consider doing the same. Carve out time to spend together where your primary focus is just to connect through conversation rather than to be distracted by entertainment. We are all books, and I am telling you that your loved ones likely have some chapters that you haven't read. All right, so we got back 2 days later, and it was time for us to make the drive up. And I will have you know that I have always been in charge of card game fun. Probably because 1, my brother and my dad can get very competitive. 2, Mom usually keeps score. And 3, I do not like on-the-spot trivia games, but they do. So this means I don't have to play. Now I'm gonna share some very candid moments from this card trip, and you're gonna have to tell me, does your family get this crazy or is it just us?
Looky here, I thrifted a portable version of the board game Apples to Apples as I just knew it would be a fun trivia game for the car ride.
Rob, this is yours. Let me see if you know this one. 1970 Saturday Night Live alum who created stars in the Emmy-making machine 30 Rock, sometimes mistaken for Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin?
Yes, you totally know her. This is the actress.
Oh, Tina Fey?
Tina Fey! Yes! Alright, Dad. Men transformed into monstrous wolves by the light of the full moon. Not to be confused with... Yep. Oh, here, Rob, you take your card.
Okay.
Alright, let's see here. The next card is... Oh, 1962 anchor of The Daily Show. Although it's comedy news, he was voted America's most trusted newscaster.
Walter Cronkite.
Not Walter Cronkite.
Dan Rather.
Not Dan Rather.
What's the name?
This is...
1962.
Yeah, comedy news. Comedy news.
Oh, comedy.
Oh, yeah, he might not get this.
Initials.
Yeah. Hold on, what is it, Rob?
Yeah, that's not gonna get it.
Yeah, Jon Stewart. Here's the phrase from Jaws. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
What is that describing? A?
Great white shark.
Close. A?
Holder.
I'll give it to him. Shark attack.
I know. I cater so easily.
Update! The family now wants to get whoever calls it out first gets the points. All right, Dad. Next one's yours. What are we describing? AKA the graveyard of empires. Countries go in, but they can't get out. Afghanistan. All right. Okay, Mom, you got this one. It's a phrase from the Three Little Pigs. Not by the hair on our chinny chin chin. They're talking about
I should know it.
Big bad wolf.
Dad, stop. This is Mom's. The hair on your chinny chin chin is not a wolf. It's a
I'm lost.
The wolf's
a goatee. A goatee.
20 minutes into the game, Mom's score was starting to drop, but she persevered, and her luck changed.
You might be old enough to know this one. What is this describing? Business in the front, party in the back. Okay. All right. Very good. Who knows if the groundhog's name was Punxsutawney Phil?
Punxsutawney Phil.
How do you ever know? I never
You're
knew
putting
that.
way too much. You're putting way too much W in it. Punxsutawney Phil.
This brother never had a name on the news.
There was a whole movie called Groundhog's Day.
Yes, Mom got it. Love handles. Okay, girl.
You know what? I was about to say on the witness link. The witness link.
No, you came back. Coming back. Saved by the bell. It's alright, cause I'm saved by the. It's alright, cause I'm saved by the bell. Snatched it from the wind. She came back on deck. Answer the curveball.
He had 2 attempts.
I know. Mom has struck again with
Now I know.
twice on deck.
Now I know what kind of
There's
Grand Slam.
Yes, a grand slam.
I just love card games. It really made the trip fly by, and before we knew it, we had arrived at our lodging.
We stayed outside of the city at an Airbnb in Jersey City. This newly renovated townhouse featured a spacious modern design and was just a few blocks away from the train station.
Anytime we travel, I always pack food, and y'all have seen me do this. And while a lot of people say, well, I'm on vacation, so I'm gonna take a break from cooking, well, do you take a break from eating? And so, sorry, that was kind of, well, I'm just gonna leave that in there. Because, like, think about it. You still have to make meals, and this is where, or have something to eat, and this is where my preservation pantry really shines through. Plus, the cost of eating out at even a modest restaurant like Applebee's for like a, chicken nacho platter and a side salad that is literally just iceberg lettuce and a few, carrot shavings will run a family of 4 at least $80. And we're still talking about, you ordered water, and that doesn't even include the tip. And I just find that to be insane, because who can afford to do that 2 or 3 times a day? At those prices, your daily food allowance could cost you more than a tank of gas or your daily lodging rate. And I also don't love the way I feel, even after just eating out for 1 or 2 meals. So I'm telling you, the advantages of having a preservation pantry was that our trip cost was just lodging, gas, and the tickets.
Now, do you remember when I had canned frozen orange juice back in March's Pantry Chat, which is also Frozen Food Month? Well, a portion of that was with this trip in mind. These cans won't require refrigeration to store, so I packed a few and I tucked them in the fridge at the townhouse to chill. So the next morning, all I had to do was just dilute the concentrate with equal parts water. We were able to have a delicious breakfast and didn't have to eat out. And I'm telling you, the most expensive part of a trip is sometimes not only just your transportation and lodging, but also the amount of money that you are going to spend on food eating out. And bringing our own food from my preservation pantry really comes in handy on trips like these. Breakfast was also in a jar. I had a delicious dried apples, craisins, and brown sugar blend that kept everyone full.
And then for dinner, I actually just brought a hodgepodge of meals, including my famous chicken and corn soup, canned chicken for chicken salad. I had some collard greens and ham. And believe it or not, I even brought along lasagna and veggie pasta that I had freeze-dried. And I'll link to the full video where I show how I prepared this meal and 5 other recipes below. Since our show wasn't until 2 p.m., we had time to explore the first part of our day, and we took the train to the World Trade Center. My father, a retired Air Force Senior Master Sergeant, often accompanied the president on tours where he worked inside of the Twin Towers, and he hadn't been to this site in over 30 years. We had to go pay our respect to the fallen men and women that were killed or injured in an act of terrorism. The falling rain captured the appropriate somberness of the memorial.
Y'all, this memorial weighed heavy on all of us, but especially my dad. There was a moment where I was walking around and taking pictures, and by happenstance, I took a picture of my dad, and it just captured the complexity of emotion on his face. The memorial is very moving, and since I shared with you a few clips, I want to read to you the intention of the design. The focal points of the memorial are 2 pools, each nearly an acre in size, that sit at the footprints of the former North and South Towers. The pools contain the largest man-made waterfalls in North America, each descending 30 feet into a square basin. From there, the water in each pool drops another 20 feet and disappears into a smaller central void. According to the architect Michael Arad, the pools represent absence made visible. Although water flows into the voids, they can never be filled. The sound of the cascading water makes the pools a place of tranquility and contemplation, separate from the bustling noises of the city. That's so true. The names of the 2,983 people who were killed in the 2001 and 1993 terrorist attacks are inscribed on bronze parapets edging the memorial pools. The names are grouped by the locations and circumstances in which the victims found themselves during the attacks. The North Pool's parapets include the names of those who were killed at the North Tower and hijacked on Flight 11 and in the 1993 bombing. The South Pool parapets include the names of the first responders, as well as the victims who were killed at the South Tower, on hijacked Flight 175, at the Pentagon, on hijacked Flight 77, and on hijacked Flight 93. Though I was in high school when 9/11 happened, it doesn't seem that long ago. And it never will.
We then toured inside of the memorial. While an overwhelming share of Americans who are old enough to recall the date remember where they were and what they were doing when they heard the news, there's an ever-growing number of Americans that have no personal memory of that day, either because they were too young or not yet born. But we must never forget, because connections to the past have implications for our future. We must all do our part to become custodians of the collective memory and preserve tangible traces of our past so that we honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and never forget that freedom isn't free.
Yeah, the morning was heavy, but my dad said that on his first trip back to New York, we had to stop. We then went back to the subway system, and with the help of a few folks, we finally found our way to Broadway.
I'll tell you this, New York City is just as busy and bustling as you think it is. But we made it to Times Square, a place I'd only experienced on TV. New York, New York. My dad is feeding the pigeons. I'm telling you, my dad can be such a kid, which explains why he couldn't resist doing this. Hey, better him than me to upset King Kong. Well, it was finally time for our show at the Minskoff Theater.
Mufasa with all his mischievous cubs and other people and stuff in the pride. See, that's why Mufasa didn't last very long.
All right, friends, let's go inside. Mom scored excellent seats. We were seated several rows from the front, and y'all, I was starting to get pretty excited. After the show, my mom wanted to purchase an embroidered bag, and I, of course, wanted to get a holiday ornament. A live show is truly spectacular.
Yep, you'll see this ornament on my tree at Christmas. For those of you who know, you know.
After the show, we stopped for a slice of New York pizza because you can't not try New York pizza, right? Apparently, this spot was the go-to place to grab a slice. We walked around a bit to avoid rush hour and strolled through Wall Street on our way back to the train station, and then headed back home where we passed out.
Now, I actually just realized that some of y'all may be wondering where my husband was at. And honey, I'm a military wife, so the needs of the Navy come before me. It's a very busy season for my husband, and he just can't get leave. Of course, the ideal is that we all go together, but my family knows that time is precious, and so we don't wait on the perfect moment to execute time together. And so we have these memories where sometimes it's just, two of us or three of us, or just, my brother and I. And, we make it work, and I have appreciated that that's how we do things. We miss him terribly, of course, but the show must go on. So let me tell you about something that happens every single time my dad comes up, but I rarely catch it on camera because he always does it while I'm at work. My dad has always loved beef jerky, but years ago when I first started dehydrating, I got really excited that I could buy reduced for quick sale meat, like the actual sliced cuts of beef or pork or chicken or turkey, bring it home, marinate it, and then make our own jerky for pennies on the dollar, because high quality jerky is very expensive. Actually, speaking of, he's gonna be up later this summer, and so I will literally keep bags of sliced, that's falling. But I will literally keep bags of sliced meat. Look at all of these chicken breasts that I have, y'all. Normally, they want $8.51 for this. I snagged this for $3.41. And he loves it because, he doesn't have to slice any of the meat and stuff like that. So I'm gonna condense all of these packages into a freezer bag. And my dad knows where to go, in the downstairs freezer, because I'll write Dad's jerky meat on it, and he loves it. Truth be told, that man eats jerky like candy. Anyways, my dad is the most loving gentleman, and he will give you his last dime, but don't come between that man and his jerky. Now, jerky is not my thing, and my mom doesn't like the texture, so his stash is always his. But on this particular visit, a perfect storm happened. My dad was drying his meat, but had stepped out to walk Thor. And I had come down the steps, and I had my phone in my hand, and I couldn't believe what I saw.
Your son has betrayed you. Your son has betrayed you. Father, I would never do this to you.
It's good, Dad.
Do you see this?
It's great. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. They waited until I went upstairs, Dad. They did. Oh my gosh.
Rob knows he was wrong for that, and later on that day, he started to come down with a sore throat. Now, the rest of us were fine, but Big Sis came to the rescue, and I gave him a bit of my homemade fire cider.
Brother has a little tickle in his throat, so I have made him some home remedies from my apothecary. You just gotta, what is it? Don't think twice. You just gotta go. Just go for it. You just gotta.
Mom, you're here just in case something happens, right?
Don't flinch. You gotta commit. You gotta commit. Let me see your tongue. go. All right. But hey, it's gonna work.
Yep, he felt better the next morning. All right, so the day before they left, we traveled to Hagerstown to Crumpies Donut Shop. It's a Washington County thing, and Crumpies has the best donuts in the entire world. I've literally been going there my entire life. Plus, it had been a few years since my brother had made the trip back home.
My bro's driving me. We're going to Crumpies, Rob.
Going to Crumpies.
Going to Crumpies. You're number 2. This is like the epitome of childhood.
Yeah.
It's like, I cannot wait to get these donuts. Just to like be in the vicinity, on the street.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Crumpies.
When you turn on Donut
You're like,
Alley. It's like,
oh my gosh.
smells like home.
It smells like home. Yeah. Do you remember what this used to be? Where this Krispy Kreme?
Krispy Kreme?
Yeah. Little Caesar.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Cassie, I have a whole other
Look. No.
state
No.
to keep. I can't remember every single thing.
Home. It used to be a Food
The
Lion.
Lion?
Okay. All right. That one came to you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes after we would go to Crumpies, we would stop there to make sure that we had enough milk.
Yeah.
And this is
Avenue.
the little car place I got my first car from.
Right.
So, Lear. Chevrolet Cavalier.
For me, Potomac Avenue was the street where I marched the Alsatian Mummers Parade
Oh, yeah, the Mummers Parade.
for 7th, 8th.
Is the whole
9th,
parade
and
just on Potomac Street?
We finally arrived at Crumpies and made that right-hand turn onto Donut Alley. As usual, there was already a line.
All right, Rob, so we made it to the Crumpies line, and it still smells like
did.
Crumpies, right?
It does.
It does. It's
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
smell on earth.
Yeah, your sense of smell is very strong, and this is.
This is it, yeah.
This is nostalgia.
This shop has been here and in the same family for over 100 years. It's a childhood marker for me and so many others. Afterwards, we drove to the neighborhood where I grew up, and then we headed back home.
So friends, guess who I got to spend the day with this month? Monica. So if you have been keeping up with my Pantry Chats, then you know that I'm very close with my neighbors, and there's a section of like all of us, like here, the majority here in the cul-de-sac. But right in our like cluster of 4, we are definitely the closest. And Miss Fanny, she's down on the next one. And so Kevin and Monica and their 2 boys, she's also expecting, moved away 2 months ago. And I'm happy for them. I'm so glad that they have a bigger home and a yard, and they're not as close to a main road as we are here, with just all the traffic that happens when you're in a townhouse community. But I have missed them so much. I've missed hearing the boys, and we moved in within weeks of one another, and they have also been here for almost going on 9 years. And so anyways, she moved, but Monica 3 years ago launched her photography business, and she is amazing. And she had actually asked me, could she take some pictures of me out on the balcony with my green stalks? And I hadn't even thought about that before. But she's like, you're out here all the time. Like, this is what you love doing. I would love to capture that for you. And certainly I am the person, just both like personally and, with my channel, I'm just used to being behind the camera. And so I don't have like as many pictures of myself. Like, it just inevitably like happens, right? Because it's always like pictures of my pup or my parents or my husband or places that I've been or food, that I've cooked, like that kind of thing. And so yeah, if you've ever seen any of my professional photos, Monica is the one who takes them. So she came over. It's kind of just like, it's an annual thing that we do now. And I was so excited to see her. Y'all, she is due any day now. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He's like, all right, let me get you a toy. Like, yes. Yeah. He's like, you're cheesy with me. Okay, close your eyes. Okay, so I finally found the other part for you. As a thank you. I know! That one was yours! I couldn't get you the same one! I was at REI the other day, and I was like, oh, this looks Monica.
For now, we'll drink, I don't know, I'll have to make like lemonade, but beer will be going in this.
Exactly. There you go.
In like 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Come here, baby. Good job. Come here. Sit down.
We just finished up a very successful photo shoot with Monica. Say hi, Monica. Everyone's gonna be so excited to see you. They're gonna be like, Monica's back. Yes, I know. It's just like old time friends. Yes. So we just finished up our annual photo shoot. You'll see those pictures coming out, I don't know, sometime this year. But it was fun. I really enjoyed our time together this morning. So as many of y'all know, I am in a hunter apprenticeship program that I found out through my state's DNR, or Department of Natural Resources. Now in my state, it was free, but I did have to commit to a cohort. Anyhow, this program also hosts clinics or one-day workshops that teach other traditional outdoor skills. Now, while I have yet to take a turkey or a deer, being in the woods has connected me with the abundance of wild edibles and herbs. So when Becoming an Outdoor Woman offered an herb walk for my specific bioregion, I went. I encourage everyone to do this first. I learned so much and I had a lot of fun.
After group introductions, I discovered plantain, which has broad oval leaves and a purple stem. In addition to the herbs, we also identified shrubs and trees. And look, here's autumn olive, whose berries have traditionally been used for chronic diseases, inflammation, and stress. What's more is that you get to have your questions answered in real time, like how to tell the difference between wild violet and trout lily.
It'll be bigger, and it's really invasive. It'll cover the whole floor, especially on the other side of the park, like on the other trails. It'll cover the whole floor. It'll get big and it'll just cover the floor, and you'll say, oh, this is violet. This is not violet. This is actually what you should not eat.
How do you note the
This
difference?
is ground ivy. This is edible. Okay. You're looking for the heart shapes. You're looking for it to be more coiled. Okay. You know, and this is not necessarily a heart shape.
No, it doesn't have the point.
Yeah, and then the point. Exactly. Wider, yeah. Solomon seal and false Solomon seal. But this is wild comfrey.
That's comfrey?
Yeah. This one is not, you'll see it once you focus your eyes on it, and that's part of the indigenous tradition too, what was taught to me as wide angle vision. When I'm walking, sometimes, excuse me, I'm looking forward, but I'm not looking at anything. I'm opening up my vision so I can see things on either side. And so once I saw this plant and then I use my wide angle vision, I see it around me. So have that heavy, thorny, you could even grow them in your, well, they're very invasive. I would grow them in a pot because everything I have is in a pot. We see our autumn olive friend right behind us. I was thinking that was the autumn olive. And this beautiful magenta plant here, that is barberry. Barberry bush. This is also barberry, but we were up here yesterday and this gets direct sunlight from here, so that's why she looks like that. And this one does not, but you can see the berries not coming here, but the berries.
Yeah, you can see the berries here. There's berries here.
Yes, they're berries on the one that gets a lot of direct light. The berries it's a very thorny plant, but it's really highly medicinal. It has a yellow bark on the inside. I can't think of the element that's on the inside that makes it yellow, but it's highly medicinal. If you want to snip a little piece off, take it home to work with it, study it. The berries are not ready. They will be ready more toward the fall.
After our 1 hour walk, we made a decoction using some of the plants that we collectively harvested.
All right, so I'm just gonna be completely off the cuff about this one. So I really need you to hear what I'm saying. Hear my heart, because I'm gonna have to talk, so this video isn't more than, it's at least an hour. It has to be. I'm gonna talk in broad strokes just so you can get the gist. And those of y'all that are really close to your pets will get this even more. Your fur babies are part of your family, and Thor is no different. Anyhow, I started to notice this last summer for a period of weeks, but then it died down and got under control. But then at the very beginning of the spring, Thor, I noticed these different like bite patches that were on like the front part of his arms and then a little bit on his back and then towards his backside, like something was biting him. And so he normally gets a bath, once a week, but I couldn't figure it out, and the bites just kept getting worse. And so I initially called the vet, and they prescribed a different medicated shampoo. So we got that, and I had been bathing him in that, and then actually increased his baths to twice a week. But as the weeks went on, the baths were helping, but like the bites were still kind of like appearing, so much so that they would actually like scab up, and then like he would start like losing, the hair in that place. And so you could just tell all around, his coat that he just had patches of missing skin, and it didn't look right. He wasn't giving us any signs that he was uncomfortable, but it looked and felt uncomfortable. So I went ahead and I booked an appointment for him at the vet, which is the same vet we've been going to all of his life. And during that appointment, she had kind of shared that it could be a number of things, but that their recommendation was to put him on an antibiotic that would be for 21 days, and then also to put him on like an antihistamine. So we were gonna do this for like 21 days, and then after 21 days, if it hadn't cleared up, then we would come back in and maybe do another round of that, but then we would have to look at some kind of other options, because you couldn't leave him on this antibiotic for too long because of other potential side effects. And so while I was there, she also recommended that we do, and she was asking me things like, had his diet changed? No. Thor eats, the food that he's been, prescribed through the vet. And then he's my sous chef, y'all. So Thor also gets his fair share of, like unseasoned chicken and beef and cooked vegetables, like those kind of things. So he has a little bit of love weight on him, but it's not anything that's not healthy, or that like I wouldn't be eating, that I know, is appropriate for him to eat without, messing up his stomach or anything like that. So she also did a skin sample test, like while she was there, just to look at his blood cells underneath the microscope. So we did that, and everything, looked fine there. And again, nothing has changed, right? Like his diet hasn't changed. I don't wear perfumes or lotions and stuff like that. Neither does, my husband. There's no difference household wise. So she was also then saying that it could be allergies. Like the pollen count has been high the past couple of years. Our winters aren't as cold. And so there's just all these, adjutants that are like in the air all of the time. Well, of course, like he's also getting older. So, there's that too. He's 9. And so, after that appointment, y'all, I went to go, check him out and, pay the vet bill. And y'all, when I heard the total for the services, for his medications, his 2 medications for 21 days, and then, the skin sampling test, it was $250. $250. And, I try to have some decorum. But my mouth dropped open and I repeated it, $250. And the receptionist was like, yeah, I know. And so, we do use sinking funds, right? Because he has his kind of annual vet visit, and pretty much Thor's been really healthy. And so he usually has his annual kind of physical, catching him up on all the shots that he needs and all that stuff in August. And so there's funds in that account, but oh my gosh, like that took a big, chunk of it. And so I just couldn't believe, like, especially because for $250, I only had a 21-day remedy. And if that didn't work, like, I don't have another $250 just to be like, oh yeah, let's try this. And so I just left feeling so deflated. Like, who can afford these prices? And I had been noticing here and there, of course, lots of things are on the rise, right? Some jumps in just different things, like there's heart guard and next guard and whatever else kind of thing. But it just left such a sour feeling in my mouth, or And like, it was like a punch to the gut to be like, oh my gosh, like I've got to figure out what's going on with my pup because I can't afford this. And I had a very similar feeling. Some of you have seen the video where I have shared, it's my canning pantry tour. And in that video, very intentionally tucked towards the middle and the end part, I share very vulnerably the true reason of why I can, which is not something you really hear about a lot. Anyways, so I'm getting ready to reference a little bit of that. And if you want to know more, check out that video. But you know, when you are going to like any type of healthcare, you know, entity, whether it's, you know, the doctors or a vet or a specialist for something, and especially for something that you are maybe thinking, perhaps the issue is chronic, but it's not entirely severe. You are already in a very fragile state before you even get there. And so when you leave not getting answers, I left the vet feeling, there was only one other time that I felt this kind of deflated, and that was after Mom and I had been to, goodness, probably 8 or 9 appointments while she was up here, trying to figure out her condition. And you're like, hold on, like I really need help. And essentially what you're saying right now is that you're not going to be able to give me the answers, you know, that I need. And so then the impetus becomes on you, right? And I left feeling, it was very reminiscent of that time where I'm like, wow, here I am going to, to doctors, and I can't get any help. There's not like a path towards like, hey, we're going to put this in place because this will trigger X, Y, and Z, and then we'll have this, right? And I was really tore up about that. But whatever it is, I want to stay solution oriented. And so my mind went to where it often does when I have a dilemma that's either like household or like in the garden or, you know, with food or just any of these kind of domains. I start to ask myself, well, Cass, what were, you know, your grandparents, great grandparents, like what were we doing 100 years ago? And, you know, not so oddly enough, you can typically be at the cusp of a really good answer. And y'all, this is where, hold on, let me go ahead and say this. So I'm not trying to like bash my vet. My appointments are never rushed. I feel as they know Thor. They're very, you know, patient with him. So it's not that, but I don't even know, like there's so many, I'm in the middle of so much research around, you know, just like pet care and veterinary clinics and like what their food is made out of, all that kind of stuff, y'all. And it is a lot. So this is just, you're really inside like my brain. This is not coming out sequential at all. But I often ask myself, okay, so what were our grandparents doing? And you know what? This is where I'm like just talking in broad strokes, okay? And certainly y'all know that I certainly want to first rely on natural remedies and then go into the traditional healthcare system, like when, you know, it's appropriate and you need to. But our grandparents were not, great-grandparents for some of us, they were not taking their animals to the vet. First, because the cost would have been prohibitive, right? And so what were they doing on their homesteads to address a number of these issues? Because at the end of it, Thor has allergies. He has seasonal allergies. And if that is something that like my grandparents would know how to do. Well, not my specific ones, but you know what I mean? Like our grandparents and great-grandparents knew how to do this stuff. And another thing that it kind of connected for me on my drive home is that the two places that I often go over to help on their homesteads, these are people that, you know, every time something happens to one of your animals, and this is going to be right now, Thor is the, you know, only animal that I own, but you are not running, Crystal is not running her quail to the vet. One, they're starting to like ban medications, and two, like the cost would just be like, you can't take, it would be insane sane. She couldn't afford it. You know what I mean? Like thousands of dollars for different things. And then even other home centers too, when something happens, I mean, you would just, the cost is insane. Again, for things that are routine, kind of colds, flus, minor infections, like those kinds of things. And so this is where I began to do more of my own research. And so I've always kept all of the medications that he has ever been on. And so the first place that I started is, there is this channel on YouTube. Let me know if y'all have also come across this channel. I really have enjoyed listening to this doctor, but his name is Dr. Jones and his channel name is Veterinary Secrets. And he was actually a certified veterinarian, but then because so many of the veterinary hospitals now, they used to be like independently, you know, owned clinics by the vet, but they're now, the vast majority of them, outside of like holistic veterinary places, are controlled by, you know, corporations. And so there's this kind of like this is the customer journey when they come to see you, like in the vet. And there's things where now I'm like, oh, something has kind of changed these last, you know, couple of years, where it's like, oh, might we also interest you in having him looked for this and checked for this in a way that's different. Anyways. And so I'm also wondering, I need to just go ahead and call and ask if ownership has kind of switched hands. I'm likely sure that it certainly has, but I've learned a lot about how the apothecary that I have can also be used not just for family care, but also pet care as well. And so one of the things, because Thor had this like immediate skin issue that we needed to get under control, is that I looked very specifically at what they had him on. Hold on, let me get that. So they had him on Simple Cef as an antibiotic, and then they also had him on Apoquel. And let me tell you, long-term use of Apoquel, from just various reports that I was reading about, like in published journals online, it makes you very concerned about the side effects, and the same with Simple Cef as well, which is just an antibiotic. And so one of the things that I realized is, okay, what is the immediate reaction that I need to have happen kind of in his body to bring down this reaction, this intense reaction that he's having? And then also I need to start coming in with just an herb wellness routine for Thor. And I have found, because I'm recording this video so late, because again, y'all, this month has just been all over the place. I realized initially by looking at Dr. Jones's videos that there are a number of over-the-counter prescriptions that in short-term use are safe for your dog, right? The same way in that over-the-counter medications are safe for us to use, like in a pinch, short-term kind of thing. That would be a fraction of the cost. And so that's when I said, hey, let me go ahead, go to Aldi, and what I am going to do is just design my own vet bag for Thor. And I wanted to get a separate, even though I have, you all have seen it before, right? I have my kind of portable household kind of like medications. Again, we do a lot of things natural first, but I still have like a couple of things of, you know, cough syrup, Tylenol, Advil. It's not a whole lot, but I wanted it to be separate so that I wasn't sorting through. Like if it's in this bag that I wanted to create just for Thor, I already knew that it had been vetted as something that I could use for him. So I'm so glad that I just went to Aldi and I found, you know, the prescriptions that were safe enough to use with your pup, and I compiled all those together.
I headed straight to the thrift store in search of a medicine bag that I could use for Thor and ended up finding this bag for $6.99. Perfect. Then I headed over to Aldi and grabbed affordable over-the-counter medicine that dogs can also safely take. And instead of these pill pockets, I decided to make my own version using real food ingredients that I've already got stocked. Honey, I did not realize until I got home that this is a Vera Bradley bag. $6.99, what a steal. I love it. It came with pockets and a zippered section, and there's really enough room in here for me to keep a small collection of medicinals for my pup. It's safe for dogs to take fish oil for omega-3s and fatty acids for joint support, Zyrtec for seasonal allergy relief, and also Benadryl for seasonal allergy relief. Your pup can even take aspirin for pain
and Tums if you're in a pinch, but not a lot of it. I've also added some wound wash and a travel size Pepto-Bismol, again, taken in short-term moderation. Some tick cream while I'm waiting for my homemade oils to infuse, a syringe for when I give him tinctures that I'll make, and voila, a first aid vet bag for my dog for under $20.
So I started giving Thor the Benadryl, and then as you saw, I also had, hold on, it's the Benadryl, oh yeah, and then like the Allegra that's there. And then combining that with fish oil and magnesium, and I got it to a place where things were halting, like those bites were not coming back. I also started adding like coconut oil to his skin, really rubbing and massaging that in. And then one of the books that I actually got, oh, I've got to show you that. I forgot to grab it out of my apothecary. But I got this book. It's called Herbs for Pets. I've just been devouring it. The front part of the book is a materia medica through the lens of like for your pet. So they're talking about cats, dogs, sheep, goats, horses. And so that has been so helpful. And then in the back, oh my goodness, this book is just, I want to do, just also like, I am just like a regular person figuring this out, you know, on my own with the help of the research that I'm doing. So this is not intended to prescribe, diagnose, like disclaimer, all of that, but also facts, right? Like this is just like, I've also had him on nettles. And so nettles are just super amazing. And now what I'm realizing is that I need to have him on a wellness routine, probably starting in January, leading up to the spring and summer, to help him just build up his immunity on different things. I have an alfalfa tincture that I'm making myself. There's a comfrey salve that I'm using on his skin. And y'all, it's been, about a month. And it's been incredible to see and just so empowering where I have been able to take care of this condition, what would have been what we were having, you know, a minor health crisis on my own. Another thing that I realized, because I thought, okay, Cass, so how do you exactly know like what you're working with? And I just knew, like at the vet, as she was kind of telling me like what would maybe happen next, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, but like all I could hear is like ka-ching, ka-ching, like how much is that gonna cost? Are these extra tests? Well, did you know? And I'm at the beginning of this, y'all, so I don't have any opinions on this. I am just, again, doing my own like research online, reading other people's reviews, like that kind of thing. But today I'm gonna go ahead and send off his, this is a pet food and environmental intolerance test that you can get. I got this off of Amazon, right? And you send it to a lab. And because I got the 2 tests, so the one test just for the pet food intolerance was $88. And then if you want to get environmental, it was another $45 or so. And so I got this because I know at the vet that this could easily, actually, I think when I saw like the fee of what he needed on our receipt thing, they're going to charge me $500 for a very similar test. So it's just like, let me do it myself. And then it will give you a report of specifically. So I'm kind of shooting in the dark enough here. And so I can know kind of like, you know, oh, he's allergic to this, like, you know, this, you know, those kind of things. I've been on this journey very intensely these past couple of weeks of turning towards and leaning on my apothecary in a way that has just left me with control and feeling empowered, and with a real solution that is at a fraction of the cost that would be, you know, if I went to the vet. Okay, so I am going to eventually, I tucked this discussion at the very end of the Pantry Chat because, again, this is just me talking. It's not my realm of expertise at all, but I do want to put together eventually, and I have been documenting kind of what I've been doing and trying and all of those kind of things. But I would encourage everyone to download this book. If you go to Veterinary Secrets, he gives this to you for free. You will be put on his mailing list, but there's great information. But it's called Dog Health Secrets. And he covers just, can you see this in here? So I want to print stuff. I know that you could download it, but I mean, sorry, this is not like the best. But like, it's easy to read. There's pictures that are in here. It's a great initial primer to kind of get you going, but not feel entirely overwhelmed before maybe you jump into a book like Herbs for Pets. But he talks about, and all these are homeopathic like treatments, right? Vaccinations and a strong homeopathic treatment after vaccinations, dog foods, the problem with grains, toxins in pet food, how much do I feed, raw food concerns, common diseases and remedies. This is just why your pets get sick. It's so good. And so actually one of the recipes that I've put together for Thor, this is the simplest self alternative. So it's echinacea and golden seal for his allergy and itch relief. So this is the Apoquil alternative. It's quercetin and then the omega-3 fatty acids. I'm telling y'all, like we have options that are out here, and being able to kind of break away from the medical care system, which you realize like, but that's the root cause, or not being able to give you an answer it's just highly frustrating. I mean, there are recipes that are in here, y'all. This is so good. I would highly encourage you to download this book. Okay, so lastly, let's just circle back to, you know, the extreme markup that some veterinary clinics are just, I'm going to say some, but I feel like it's also like the majority, the more kind of research that I did in terms of like the vet shortage, the conditions actually under which they work under. But, you know, I thought about, you know, I am in a 2-income household without children, one dog, and here it is like, oh my gosh, can we even afford to have a dog? Like I said, I could do that once, but I couldn't go back in just 3 weeks for you to hit me with that number, that bill again, or higher. And so it just made me so sad, because I thought of all the things that are, you know, increasing, like, man, can people even afford to like have a dog, have a pet? And they're so necessary for your mental health, you know, your physical health. I remember, so my husband was deployed at the beginning of COVID. And so for the first part of COVID, I was just here in my house. Now, my neighbors and I, you guys know, like, we're very close. And so I had them to talk to, and, you know, we were still, you know, I mean, we live in very close proximity, and we're in our like own little bubble. But I would have gone, I think it was probably 6 months. Yeah, I think that was between 6 to 7 months without having like an actual hug or an embrace from anyone, right? My family, like all of them were in Florida. And so isn't that nuts? Like, that's nuts. But you know what? I had my dog. I had Thor. And I don't know, just while I wait to, you know, become a mom, you know, he's my little baby. Believe it or not, there are increasingly, well, hold on, let me backtrack and say this. So during like the 70s and 80s, there was a big push for like spay and neutering, you know, your cats and dogs, and adopting. And so now pretty much adopting is not, you know, the issue at all. Pets are going, like, people are adopting, you know, pets and different things like that. But now the issue with stray cats and dogs is that people can no longer afford to keep them. And the experience that I had a few weeks ago, that is jarring, you know, and you may not have that flexibility. That's really tough. That's really tough for folks. And I just think about how, because now the number one, there are so many people that, due to financial reasons, right, are euthanizing their dogs for what, again, should be routine kind of medical issues that should be able to be handled, you know, in-house. But we have, again, as more of these corporations are taking over our veterinary clinics that were once like independent practices, and the vets had more say and autonomy over like care. And this industry is not new. This is like the oldest taking care of like your pets and all these things. But it just, I don't know. I've just really been down the wormhole with all of that. But I'm so thankful that using, sorry, my camera died. It's telling me I need to wrap it up. But I am so thankful that in a time of need, an alternative that God has here for us, his herbs, not even for everyone all over the world, came in as, a solution in a time that I really needed one. So there are so many different domains as I am in this homesteading journey. I know that I primarily talk about what I know best, what I have the longest experience in, which is in, food preservation and cooking. But there are so many different shoots along my homesteading journey that are happening. And now, again, just seeing my apothecary in an entirely different way has just been such a blessing. To get more recipe inspiration, click on the video on your screen. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.